Roll call, please.
Board Member Maria Gonzalez. Board Member Gustavo McGrew. Secretary Maria Sabori.
Present.
Vice Chairman Emma Torres. Chairman Gerardo Sanchez.
Present.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Perfect. We're going to go ahead and go with the consent agenda. Minutes of regular council meeting, regular meeting held on September 8th, 2021. I will now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as consent agenda as stated. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
There's a motion. There's a second. All is in favor?
Aye.
All is against? Motion carries. We're going to go ahead and go with item, first discussion item and possible action item number 3A, discussion and possible action on all matters, all items regarding quarterly review of benefits plan. Monica Castro, Director of Finance, and Susan Posada, Broker and Consultant.
Good afternoon, Mayor, board members. This is Roland Encinas. I'm here on behalf of Mrs. Castro. At this time, we don't have the financial report for the quarter we are presenting, and we have not completed them since we are focusing in our audit to complete our audit.
Perfect. Thank you. Susan?
Mayor, trustees, thank you for having me here. I really wanted to come and see you because there's some benefits that we wanted to present. But before I do that, can you go to the presentation? Or can I take it to the presentation? I thought I'd do something cute for Christmas. So Merry Christmas.
Reminds me of San Luis when it snows.
It is cute, isn't it?
Eventually. Yeah.
Since we're on the subject of, how do I go back? Okay, there we go. I just wanted to do a review of, can you put it on full screen at the bottom right? The bottom right,
Sorry.
left, a little bit left to where you're at right now. The full screen. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna take it back one. So I just kind of wanted to report real quickly because that's the agenda item. The plan continues to have carryovers from last year, which we've had some COVID claims. Not all of it COVID, but we had quite a bit of claims from last year. This year, we incurred a claim of 92,000, of which we've received $41,000. So far, for the period, for the 4 months, we have a gain of $48,000 above what we put into the plan. And that includes the 41,000 that we received from the stop loss carrier. Our large claims at that time for October were 9 claims for a total of 233,000. We're now up to 12 claims, and that's for 5 months. And that's very concerning to have so many large claims this early in the year. So we're at about 38% claim to ratio. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Although we do have quite a bit of money in the trust, we're doing okay, but we still want to continue to maintain that because it can go pretty quickly in any one particular year. So any questions about the report?
We're good to go. I mean, it's there. I mean,
Yeah, and one of the things, the large claims, for instance, was a child, the birth of a child. It was a high risk pregnancy. Those are things you can't prevent. So it is what it is. I have And the claims themselves are all over the place. It's not as if they're in one particular area. It's like really all over. You want to do the next one, next item?
Okay, do we have to take action on item number 3A? No, it's just a review.
Report.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go into item number 3B, discussion of possible action on matters regarding complex imaging and lab services.
Okay,
Susan Posada,
there you go.
now we're ready.
Okay, so last year and at the beginning of this year, we've had issues with labs and complex imaging because the last lab that we had here was purchased by the hospital. So we were left without any labs. And I did some checking and we now have 3 labs in the area. We have two lab cores. We have Sonora Quest, so people can go and get their blood tests. In addition to that, we now have South County here in San Luis with Amanda's group. So they're now doing some of the blood work, which is really good. And the imaging themselves, the only place we had previously was the hospital because the hospital purchased the last imaging company. So as a result of that, the employees had to go to the hospital or to e-surgeries. And that was the reason we added e-surgeries, so they could help us navigate and send employees to a place that was going to be less expensive for the member and for the plan. And that's why we had that. If I can go back to the presentation, please. So because we now have labs, I'm requesting that we add to the plan. So right now we have $15 copay for the diagnostic. If you can put that particular presentation back up again, I appreciate it. Right there. There, okay. There. So right now, under the diagnostic labs, we have a $15 copay if you do your labs and x-rays in the doctor's office, okay? That's normal. But if you go to a lab, like a lab outside of that, you would have to go to e-surgeries right now under the present plan. But because we now have LabCorp and Sonora, we want to be able to give them what they had the year prior, in that if they want to go directly to LabCorp or Sonora, they can pay a $25 copay. They're going to have a choice of going directly to LabCorp or Sonora. If they do, it's going to be a $25 copay. If they go through e-surgeries, there's no charge, because e-surgery contracts with these labs at a cheaper rate than Blue Cross and Blue Shield does. So that's the reason we allow no deductible, no copay, nothing if they go through e-surgery. The member will have the ability to either go direct or go through e-surgeries. If they want to save money, they go through e-surgeries. If not, so basically the only thing we would be adding would be the $25 copay for the standalone contract provider, which would be a Blue Cross Blue Shield provider under LabCorp and Sonora Labs. So I'd like the ability to provide that to members so they can go directly if they choose. It's going to be up to them. With the complex imaging, we now have Simon Med, which is excellent. We did not have this before. And that's the reason, again, no charge through e-surgeries right now. That's the way it is. But $25 copay if they go to Simon Med. If they go through e-surgeries and they go directly through e-surgeries, e-surgery calls Simon Med or anyone else, and they go directly through e-surgeries, then they pay nothing. But if they go directly to Simon Med, then they pay a $25 copay. This is the way the plan was before 2 years ago when the last lab went away.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to do is make it better for the member and the employee. That's the objective, is so that they're not have to pay deductibles because they do something wrong. Any times, for instance, we had a member that had a lab at the doctor's office, but because the doctor's office, and I spoke to the hospital, but because the doctor's office sent the lab to be cultured at Yuma Hospital, that member had to pay the deductible because it was cultured in the hospital. So if they go to the labs, like LabCorp Sonora or Simon Med, they don't have to do that. So my objective is to try to add another level for members to have to go directly to LabCorp Sonora. And in addition to that, we also have testing here in San Luis with is it South County? Oh, yeah, it's South County, isn't it? Yeah. Amanda's group added additional labs, mammograms, DEXA X-rays. So we're really happy. They're contracted with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, so members can go directly there. Or they can go through e-surgeries, because e-surgeries contracted directly with them also. So let me explain why there's a difference between Blue Cross and Blue Shield and e-surgery. When e-surgery gets involved, they usually contract at 120% of Medicare rate, somewhere in there. Not always the same, but somewhere in there. So they'll contract at a lower rate than Blue Cross and Blue Shield does. Blue Cross Blue Shield may contract at 200% of Medicare rate. So we pay less, but we pass that on to the member. That's why we have that with e-surgeries. And they can do that. It's a little bit more work to go through e-surgeries, but we save and the member saves. So my request is to allow for us to add the $25 copay for standalone providers with no deductible for the x-rays and labs, and then also for the MRIs and CAT scans, because those can be very expensive. The MRIs and CAT scans can cost $1,000, $1,500, and so we don't want them to have that kind of cost if we can do it better.
I have a good question, Susan. Let's say, for example, you need an ultra-fast CT done of the coronary artery. And the thing is, Simon Med will not do them.
Yeah. Then they would have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And the hospital, it's the deductible. But if they go to e-surgeries and they have to have something special like that, outpatient, then e-surgeries can contract with someone in Phoenix or Tucson or somewhere else that's a lot less expensive. And you don't have to pay your deductible co-insurance or anything like that. Fortunately, it is a trip, but it saves money. It saves $750 for the deductible.
Yeah.
But there are some tests that only a hospital can do.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
There's only some tests that you will be sedated and you
Yeah.
will be.
And I have to honestly tell you, the cost with Yuma Hospital is extremely high. Very, very high.
Yes, yeah.
I've worked with Blue Cross to see if we can negotiate that down or see what can be done. And basically, they say they're the only game in town, and it's very difficult to negotiate that because they're the only hospital. There's a lot of pressure also right now with hospitals. The Blue Cross and Blue Shield almost didn't negotiate with Phoenix Children's Hospital. We were on pins and needles for the last couple of months. We didn't know what was going to happen. The hospitals are demanding more. The insurance companies are demanding their share also. So it was almost very, very difficult till the last hour. Then they reached an agreement with Phoenix Children's Hospital, which was very good because we do have some members that do go to Phoenix Children's Hospital.
Good. No, this only adds to the benefit. So as long as we have that option to minimize costs, and we still have the other expensive option, unfortunately, but we have to because some of those tests need to be provided here. But no, this is an asset. This is an option for our employees, which is good. Any questions from the member?
I do. If it goes through, when would that be in effect?
So today's the 7/15. We have to give employees 60 days notice. So it would probably not be effective until March 1st. Okay? I could probably get this one in because it's a little bit more, it's a positive change for the member. Okay? When it's a negative change for the member, we have to give them 60 days. It's a legal requirement. But because we have another item that we're going to discuss, both of these will probably be put together in the plan document. That's a change. So it probably will not be till March 1st.
Okay.
So we'll notify everyone that this is coming effective March 1st. We're required by law to give them notice.
Very good. I have no more further questions. Any more questions, concerns?
No.
So I'm gonna go ahead and move, I will now accept the motion. And I'll read it, and I'll just say noted. I move to amend the benefits plan to allow for standalone imaging and lab services providers and authorize staff to take all actions needed to accomplish it. I will now entertain a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. All those against? Motion carries. Thank you, Susan. Now we're gonna go with, let's see here. Our last item, item number 3C, discussion of possible action on all matters regarding the hearing aid benefit in U.S. and Mexico medical plans. Susan Posada. I'm interested about this one because most plans don't cover hearing aid.
There you go. That's why I'm bringing it up.
They just don't.
So allow me to give you a little bit of a history of what happened. So during ACA, Glenn and I were working with the attorney to develop the plan at that time when healthcare reform came to be. At that time, there was a lot of confusion with ACA whether the hearing aids were covered or not covered, but we are required by ACA or by law to pay for the hearing exam, okay?
Yeah.
We're not required now to pay for the hearing aid, which can be very expensive, and this is why I'm bringing it up. Because this is what happened with the Mexico plan. So the Mexico plan, when we did it at that time, because we were required to do it, we allowed those members to come into the US and have their hearing exams and their hearing aids here in the US at 80%, because that was not a benefit that Sierra Med offered at the time. Since that time, Sierra Med now offers the ability to have the exam and the hearing aids, okay? The cost in Mexico and the US is probably very similar. And in light of what I just said earlier, of all the costs that we're incurring in the large claims, I think, and the aging population, and also the fact that a lot of younger members are using their earphones and all of that and requiring hearing aids, then I thought that I would bring this to your attention. So Sierra Med, number one, now is able to provide the hearing aid. They don't have to come into the US to get that, even though we want to allow them to, because the cost in Mexico and the US is going to be very similar. It's not going to be a major discount in Mexico. But they can have it in Mexico. They have a Mexico plan. But here's the problem. The problem is on the hearing aids, they come at all different varieties and types. Some can be $300. Some can be $6,000, $7,000. It's not regulated in the sense that, certain equipment is regulated. This one is not. And I suspect that with the Biden administration, some of those things are going to begin to change. Most plans do not cover hearing aids. And what I want, and right now the way our plan reads is we cover hearing aids, but we don't have a maximum or a limit on time on our plan. And not that I want to take away from members, but I want to reduce our liability. And I've given you 3 options. And this came from 90 Degrees or EPSO, because I went to them and I said, okay, what should I be recommending to the city? And they said, well, most plans do not cover hearing aids. And that is correct. Mayor Sanchez, that is correct. So very few plans have this coverage, but on a limited basis. So we came up with 3 different options for you to choose. Instead of taking everything away, that we begin to kind of reduce that in light of the exposure that we have here. So the first option would be to limit 1 hearing aid for each ear every 3 years for children 18 years and younger. Option 2 is limit to the cost of 1 hearing aid per ear up to a maximum payment of $2,200 every 36 months. Option 3, limit to a maximum benefit of $1,500 per calendar year every 36 months. Option 3 includes adults too, and number 2 and 3.
So all these include adults also?
The number 2 and 3 includes adults. Number 1 is just for children under 18.
Susan, how many claims average a year do you see normally?
We have not had many. Maria, do you think we've had maybe 2? Possibly 2? Yeah, 2.
Yeah, the reason why we don't have any is because providers know that it's not covered.
Yeah.
If I knew this was covered,
Mhm.
guess what? I would be prescribing it. And so, trust me, this is a benefit. Very rare benefit.
And we did have
does
one
not.
situation, once that word gets around, it's going to get around.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is that we do one of these 3. I didn't want to make that decision. I didn't want to make just one recommendation. I think all of you are intelligent, and this is not something that is offered anyways. If I were to do one of them, it would be number 3. If
So-
I were to do that, I would be number 3.
So that's $1,500 per calendar year every 36 months.
Uh-huh.
Explain that to me. So every 36 months, you get $1,500?
Yes.
Whereas the number 2 is 1 hearing aid per year to a maximum payment of $2,200 every 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't much of a difference.
Hmm?
There isn't much of a difference.
No.
I'm like, that's just
No,
words that are
just wording.
wording.
How does number 3 work? It reads calendar year, but it's every 36 months.
So if I get my hearing aid today, then, and I pay, because it depends on what the cost is going to be. It could be $6,000. So we're going to allow the 1,500. We'll pay that 1,500 if it's a prescription. We'll pay that out. And then from that particular date, let's say it's December 15th, then we'll wait another 3 years before they have that benefit again. So it's not in a calendar year, but it's every 36 months.
That would be another $1,500.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Whereas number 2 is basically instead of $1,500, you would get $2,200.
Yeah.
Every 3 years,
Every 3.
and that includes children and adults.
Yes.
Number 1, only children.
Uh-huh.
And how about you guys? I like number 2.
The way that we have it right now is a lot more exposure. Not that everybody's going to go out and get a hearing aid, but we should have some limits to minimize the exposure in light of everything that I talked about earlier. And Sierra Med has it now where they didn't have it before, which would be a change to the Mexico plan.
And the thing is, not everyone wants to wear hearing aids. It's a big issue, especially with adults, especially with older male. They just refuse to.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
And
It's ego,
it's an ego. and
vanity.
even though they ask you to repeat it again, they won't admit it.
Yeah.
Well, I deal with that.
So, it's up to you, one of the 3. I would have a preference. The 2 and 3 are very similar, but I would go with option 3, simplify.
Does Sierra Med have limits as well?
They only have limits to the degree that we give them the limit. So if we give them a $1,500 limit in Mexico, that's going to be the limit. They'll probably find hearing aids that cost that much. Instead of the way it is right now, they find something that costs 6,000.
Would we have to do the same for the Mexico plant?
Yes. Well, we don't have to, but in fairness, in parity,
Mhm.
I recommend that we do that. Plus, I don't want to change, and it's not included in here, that the member can still come to the United States and get their hearing aids, but they have to pay the reimbursement would be at 80%. I don't want to change that because they have the ability to do that if they want. And the cost is going to be somewhere in Mexico as it is in the US.
I think 1,500 is a good start. And depending on the claims next year, then we'll decide either go with 2,200, but I think 1,500 is a very good option. And I'm pretty sure Sierra Med will find hearing aids that are similar, closer to $1,500 or within like the 3,000 range, not the 7,000 range.
Yeah.
Because you can really get,
Well, I had a really good discussion with Dr. Galindo, and he was concerned, actually. Mhm.
well, Walmart sells a really nice pair for $750.
For how much?
$750.
750.
Very good pair. So
Yeah,
I'm just curious though.
yeah.
Walmart is
I-
going into that market.
And they would have to be prescribed. It wouldn't be that I
Correct.
go and buy them and.
See.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
But there is a proposal by the Biden administration to get that from being prescribed. So if they're not prescribed, then we would have to take a look at our plan document again and see if we would cover it.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I don't think it's gonna go much because it's hard enough for them to cover a wheelchair. Now imagine 7,000 or 8,000 for hearing aid because they go that much. I've
Yeah.
seen the bill, 700, 8,000,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and they lose them.
Yeah.
Patients will lose them
Yeah,
or dropping in a cup of water. Yes.
and again, the reason that I'm bringing these issues up is because there's a change now. The labs weren't covered. There weren't any laboratories. There weren't hearing places in Mexico. I just want to refine it and make it so everybody knows what the parameters are.
I'm sorry, I have a new phone.
That's okay.
So
It's good music.
somebody- okay. No, I have no problem with number 3. No sé qué opinan.
We
It's a
can
start.
start out.
We can always
Mhm.
change it, right?
We review everything on, for July 1st for next year. But these two items I thought were important enough to bring them. If not, I would have waited until July 1st.
Yeah,
But I think these two, especially the labs and the MRIs,
Mhm.
I thought that were so important that I wanted to bring them.
So I will now entertain a motion to move to approve plan option number 3 as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Now we have a benefit we didn't have last year. Good job, Susan. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
There's a motion. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Have a good night. Thank you, Susan, so much. Now we have more benefits. Glenn, I like your sweater, Glenn. I had to say that.